thank you all for being here. I think I'll start and I'll just introduce Angie. So this is Angie Ruiz, who made the film that you just got to see. She is a local, so you can catch her. She's been a writer, a director, and a producer on a few documentary films, actually, including one about Rottweilers, which sounds lovely, and one about canine cancer, which does not sound quite as lovely. But she and her family, who are here in the audience, have a Rottweiler at home, which of course is descended from wolves. So I figure this is all, so they're all really about the same topic, exactly. And she even has her own production company to be able to make these films. So we're really glad to have her with us. I'm Sarah Anderson. I'm faculty at the Bren School, which is Environmental Science and Management across campus. You might ask, if you knew me, why a political scientist is up here talking about wolves. And so I thought that's how I would introduce myself. First, I grew up in Montana. And so I was around for the wolf reintroduction that was happening pretty much in my backyard. So I watched the wolves what feels like my whole life. Second, I actually do professional work on wildlife conflict with humans and reintroductions, so things like grizzly bears and wolves. And then last, because Angie and I got to go to Yellowstone in February over President's Day weekend and watch wolves together. And so we had an epic sighting of one of the packs that you see in the film. Yes. And maybe you could just start off by telling us what it's like to be out there watching wolves and filming wolves. What's that like for you?
So I started research on this film 4.5 years ago, and I'd never been to Yellowstone National Park. And a good friend of mine who's an ecologist recommended, if you're familiar, if there's anyone here that's read any books by Rick McIntyre, The Rise of Wolf 8, and followed by The Reign of Wolf 21. Wolf 8 was part of the original wolves that were introduced. And it was such an incredible story that I decided to focus on Yellowstone wolves. And part of that was going out into the field and seeing them. I'll talk about our sighting that we had just a couple months ago, but I have to start at the beginning. And the first wolf that I ever saw in the wild, this is just research for the film, I hadn't even begun production, was 907. The one-eyed wolf, the oldest wolf in Yellowstone, and she had just had, I think I can't remember what Kira said, but the 9th litter at that point. Only 2 survived, or only 1 survived out of that litter. So it was at 5 a.m. in the morning, and probably 5 hours went by, and I was still behind that scope. I was just mesmerized, and at that moment I knew I wanted to make a film about the wolves in Yellowstone. So that's kind of how it started. But I did take Sarah and a couple of other people and their kids.
Lots of teenaged boys,
actually. During winter, and winter is no joke. I mean, it's unpredictable, -30, -20 winds, snow, but you guys came, and we had the most epic sighting of that first pack, the Rescue Creek pack. I wish I would have gotten this for the film, but we saw them, that classic deep snow in formation with the alpha at the top, and you have everyone following behind in tracks, deep snow going up a ridge, and it was just so beautiful within 5 minutes of entering the park. And I had to tell them, this doesn't happen. I don't even have this in my film. I wish I would have. But yeah, so we did a nice couple days up there. So I'm really glad that you came.
Yeah, it made me wonder, what it is about wolves that captures us, our imagination. They obviously captured your imagination, captured the imagination of everybody who shows up to see these films. Do you think about that? Do you have an idea about that?
Yeah, I think the experience of seeing wildlife in general, I hear very similar things. People that go to Africa, they're all of a sudden changed and they want to continue to go back. And it's very similar. I think that Lamar Valley has such a large concentration of wildlife. I think I've been to the Serengeti. I feel like it's America's Serengeti. I could not believe the wildlife on the days of our production. The bears, that was just, because I think wildlife filmmaking is tough in the sense that you can't cue the animals to come out. You just have to show up at 4 a.m. and hike with all your gear and just wait. And the bears just happened to come out, and the black bear had those 2 tiny cubs, so we got great footage of that, of the bears. But I just think there's really something special. It's the experience, like Kira Cassidy says, of seeing wild animals, and it's grounding in many ways, almost humbling, because at least for me, it makes me feel like there's a greater community in nature that I'm a part of. I'm not the most important out there, right? Like I'm now within their territory, and it's just I don't really know how to put it into words to others and to say it's very humbling, it's grounding, and I've become really addicted to it. So I keep going back. So.
We had that humbling experience actually on
that
trip.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
Do you want to tell them about trying to avoid the bison?
Oh yeah. So this is dead winter. The winter's great because it's the best time to see wolves. And the grizzly bears are all hibernating. So I think it's an epic time to see wolves because you don't have to fear like being outside and you can hike and you're not afraid of running into any bears. But the bison are out, and we did this hike in full blizzard, deep snow, snowshoeing, because we wanted to go out to the original acclimation pens. And I'm so grateful for Quinn, our guide, because he rounded up a corner and there was a bison. He's like, all right, guys, we have to go around, and it was the hard way. We now have to hike up this hill in deep snow. And thankfully that the bison didn't react because we backed away, but it's pretty scary. And if you talk to biologists they're mostly afraid of bison and elk because they will charge out of nowhere and they kick, well, especially elk, they kick out with their legs, which you're not expecting, and they can knock you down and they just will not stop stomping. So it's pretty scary if you run into one of those. So thankfully nothing happened.
We did not. We took the hard hike up, and then we sort of slid down.
That's right.
The other side to avoid that bison.
That's right.
One of the things that always strikes me when we talk about wolves, and it strikes me in your film, is the way the wolves are numbered instead of named.
Radio collared.
They're radio collared and they're numbered, and I'm just curious how that helped you or made it harder maybe even to tell the story of the wolves, because we're so used to naming.
Yeah, I just went with it. The first wolf I ever saw was 907. They said, that's 907F. And I was like, okay, tell me about her. She's the oldest wolf in Yellowstone right now. She just had another litter, and she's part of the Junction Butte pack. I just went with it. I didn't really think anything other than that, other than them explaining to me. It's from the radio collar. She was radio collared. Those are the only wolves that get numbers. And they usually try to radio collar one wolf from the pack so they can, through that radiotometry, it's not really GPS, it's sort of like that thing that they use. They can just track them and study them and, kind of see where they're going and if they're leaving Yellowstone, because that's always scary. Usually when that happens, not the entire pack comes back. So, yeah.
You had a really great ability for this film to talk to scientists and people working with the wolves. And I wonder if there are any questions that you have about wolves or projects that you know about, like that bioacoustic project that really excite you.
Oh, all of it. All of it excites me. I mean, all of it. The Yellowstone Wolf Project, the bioacoustics project, and it was, it took a lot of research to find and cross-reference who everyone was. I knew who Doug Smith was. From the moment that I began production, I created a vision board, and I had his name right at the top. And then I had Rick McIntyre, and I had Bob Landis. I had a map of the Lamar Valley, and slowly I added Taylor Raby. I knew from following her on Instagram, but also seeing some of her interviews on YouTube, and then seeing her out in the park. I was like, okay, I definitely want to interview her. Kira Cassidy, she's been in countless documentaries. She's so well-spoken. She does a lot of wolf symposiums around the world. So I added her to the list. And then Jeff Reed, I had just come across a bioacoustic seminar, and it said that it was about wolves and their communication. And you were supposed to be a researcher, but I signed up anyway because I wanted to, because it was going to be live. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to email him, tell him I want to be him to be a part of this documentary. So there was a lot of detective work like that. And the funny thing is, all of these people from all over the world, they're like, yeah, I'm studying bioacoustics, or I'm part of this research project. When it came to my name, I'm like, hi, I'm Angie Ruiz from Santa Barbara, and I'm a documentary filmmaker. And they're like, oh, that's interesting. But I mean, I ultimately was able to, after a few Zoom calls, and get him to be in the film. So that was nice.
How do you think about that when you're making a film about wolves, and then you have people as characters too?
Yeah.
Like, how did you navigate the kind of character and the character arc?
I have to talk about Doug Smith too, because he was he had retired. He was 28 years with the Yellowstone Wolf Project as the lead biologist, and he'd retired when I started production. So he was not in the park anymore, and I was scrambling to find any contact. I mean, I even went on to sites where he had just spoken at a university, but there was no contact, and it was pretty tough. So then I started following Wolf Tracker, which is that guiding service by biologists. And it just so happened that in November, when we were going to be in the park, they were doing a 10-day tour with Doug Smith. So I contacted Nathan Varley right away, and I just said, hi, I am doing this documentary. We're going to be out at the park. Any chance that we can just visit with Doug for the 2 days that he's in the park? And so that's how that happened, because he said yes. I could not believe it. So that was good luck right there. And we got to spend 2 days observing wolves with Doug Smith and listening to his presentations. And then finally I got to interview him. So yeah, it's a lot of work.
I think they're hearing a little of the magic of you because I know when we were in the park, we ran into Rick McIntyre.
Yes,
who writes
we did.
this whole series of books about the wolves.
Yeah.
And then she has this way of just entering their world to where he brought out a footprint, like an impression of a footprint.
21. It was Wolf 21. That was super special. Yeah.
I think that's really interesting that as a wildlife documentarian, so much of what you're actually working with and on is the people.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. It really is the people that are on the ground daily studying these wolves that I think bring the wolves to life. We had the footage, but we needed the people that study them to tell the stories that they've told in the film. And I was so glad that they did that, because they are scientists, but they're also human beings. And of course they get attached or they fall in love with one particular wolf. And it's very sad if something happens to that wolf. And I really was so happy that they were willing to talk about those wolves that were very special to them. Because like I said, I love their work, but they're human beings. And
to the point of even tattooing.
Tattooing.
They're so attached.
Yeah.
Which I thought, that she said that was hard.
Yeah.
That was a hard part of her job and a good part of her job.
Yeah. And I was happy she said that, So that's because I don't think they get to really talk about those things often. So those are a lot of the questions that I asked, and I kind of wanted to show that side of them in the film, so.
I love the moment when he calls the wolves lackadaisical travelers. Yeah. That's like one of my very favorite moments in there, because it's just such an interesting description of what they're doing.
Yeah, it's kind of like family. When you travel with family, we're kind of lackadaisical travelers because everyone wants to do something different.
Exactly.
I do like that he said that too.
I know you've traveled with your family to Yellowstone.
Yeah.
And I just wonder if do you see your family in that? Do you?
Oh, they also had an epic wolf sighting day one, and I had to tell my husband, who's sitting in the audience, I'm like, do not expect this every time, because this is just sheer luck. But it was the Junction Butte Pack in the wintertime again. And my daughter My little daughter, she came out and hiked through snow to see, and this was like -20. But they got to see a really beautiful sighting. So the whole family, the whole Junction Butte pack. So that was really great. Yeah.
That is an interesting thing about the wolves too, is how important their families are,
Oh, yeah.
but then also how they then send some of the wolves just out to go find their new territory. And
yeah, I think those are usually it's the males, because as you were saying, the women or the females always stay near the den. It's usually the males, the brothers. They want to go find a mate, so they end up dispersing. That's usually what happens. So the females usually stay, and other males will come in to find them. So that's kind of how, at least what I've observed, how it happens.
I want to switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit more about the filmmaking piece of this, because I see your name on the flyers and it says filmmaker.
Yeah.
And I'm a professor, and so I don't really know what that means.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, I guess, what does that mean? What does it mean to make a film? How much of it's in your head? Yeah. How much of it just happens because
I think
of
there's
that?
different types of filmmaking. This is obviously documentary filmmaking, and it's wildlife documentary filmmaking. I've done the 2 other films, were all filmed in, it was not a wildlife, it was just on dogs. So this was really hard. And what I realized right away is getting out there at 4 a.m. in the morning and with a crew of 4 people, it was tough. And there were moments when we were waiting in the cold for something to happen. We knew where the wolves were. We heard the howling. And luckily, we always had some luck during the day, but it was a lot of waiting. But it goes, I take the film from conception to distribution. This would be considered distribution. I'm now traveling with it. And a lot of it is based on the footage from that day. What did we see today? Okay, 907, this is great. She goes into the 907 footage pile. Same black bears. If you have black bears, that's going to go here. I'm definitely going to show these tiny bears because they're so cute. Bison, for sure. How do you say it's Yellowstone without saying it's Yellowstone? If anyone's been there, bison. The bison are always in the road. There's always bison jams, and they're pretty surly. We were charged in the car a couple times by bison. So, that's kind of, in my world, that's what filmmaking is. So I'm involved as the director and producer of creating the film, kind of writing it as I'm watching the footage, and reaching out to every person that we interviewed, getting those interviews scheduled, dealing with all the permitting, all of the public affairs of Yellowstone. I mean, that was another difficult thing, dealing with the most famous park in the world, and it's run by the government. That was really, really challenging at times, but I was able to work with them and get what I needed, but it took a lot.
Yeah, it almost sounds like you're like a small business owner.
Yeah.
You're always the one doing.
I mean, it's part of also budgeting. I mean, I have a budget and I do most of the work, which saves a lot of the budget because it's kind of my baby. So I really, really care about it. I think about it daily and work on it daily, even if it's for a couple of hours. Over the last, I think we finished it completely December. That was when I had the SBMS screening. I'd wrapped the film, it was done, post-production was done, and I wanted to get it to see what it looked like on the big screen. So my daughter goes to SBMS, and we did a big screening for the school. And so, yeah.
What was that moment like?
Oh my gosh,
on the big
it was
screen?
Incredible. I was so happy. It was incredible because I knew it was the post-production phase was over, and now this is the fun part, to share the film and to get audience reaction. I love audience questions, and I love to hear, how it made them feel.
Yeah. It must be hard to let it out of your hands, though, is it?
No, not at all. Not at this point. No. Okay. I'm happy.
A little bit tired of it, too. That's fair. That's fair. But how do you, when we talk about audience, how do you imagine, or did you have dreams about how people would connect to the film and maybe it would spur action or different thinking, or did you
Yeah.
have that in mind when you started?
My hope was, after all that, spending so much time in the park and understanding the kind of pro-wolf, anti-wolf, and just really understanding what goes on, you know, everything from the hunters to how the ranch, I mean, I did get a full view of even ranch life around there, and obviously I really do see what I understand. You know, I wouldn't have before I did the film, but now I understand. It's all difficult. Everyone is trying to survive out there, and I respect that. And I just hope that my hope was, after, you know, when I was thinking about when it was done and post-production was done, we're screening it, is that people just have a fair or balanced view of wolves, I guess, instead of maybe fear them. I think oftentimes there's a lot of fear, and that was my hope, just a balanced view.
I've wondered where that fear comes from.
Oh, I'm sure
actually.
it's from all of the stories, and yeah, there's never been a documented case of a wolf ever attacking in Yellowstone, never, since they've been reintroduced. So I don't know if it's happened anywhere else in the world, but I don't know. I think it's just predators in general, maybe.
The eyes that are forward, and then we're done. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it is interesting because they're not as scary as you say.
Yeah.
Some of the things that we think are cute.
Oh, I'm more, yeah, I avoid elk at all. If I see an elk, I'm not even going near it.
I love that. Have you had any connections with audience members through this film?
Oh my gosh, all the time, after every single screening. And I love hearing their experiences. I love when I have everyone from people that go to Yellowstone regularly, and they're familiar, and they're like, oh my God, 907 and 06, or they've read Rick McIntyre's books, or they have followed Doug Smith and they've been to one of his National Geographic talks, because that's what he does now. He travels with National Geographic doing talks. It's always fun. And then it's always fun too to hear from people that have never been and are now excited to go.
I hope there are people in this audience who are excited to go, even in winter, even with bison, even with, because it is an amazing place. Can you tell us, I guess winter brings that up, about, it must have been hard to film with, you talked about the unpredictability of the animals, but there's the weather.
All of it.
There's the people, because you're in a national park. How did you?
Yeah, actually, that wasn't so bad, because we went always on off season. We never went in the summer. We went fall, winter, spring, and the very beginning of the spring, even when the park wasn't quite open, all the roads. So that was easy. We never had a people issue. We did kind of when we were with Doug Smith, because people recognized him and wanted to run up to him and have him sign their books. But it was minor. But the weather and the getting up very early, the carrying of all the equipment, and then there's no cell service. So everything, we had to bring multiple batteries for everything. That was challenging. That definitely was, I mean, there were days that were difficult. And not a lot of food around, because the restaurants were closed. I mean, it was, frozen burritos.
In the hotel room.
Just, I mean, everything.
Does that make you want to make another wildlife film?
In a little bit, yeah. In a little bit. Not right away. I need a little break.
Do you have ideas in mind, or how do your ideas even come to you?
Oh, well, I'm really upset. Are you guys familiar with Barry Lopez, the writer? I'm reading the book Arctic Dreams right now, and his most famous book is it's of Wolves and Men, I think it is, which I haven't read yet. And he's just an incredible writer. But this Arctic, kind of obsessed with the Arctic right now. So I've never been, but because I'm reading this book, I'm obsessed with the Arctic. So who knows?
I think you like cold places secretly. You live in Santa Barbara, and you secretly need to go to these cold places. I guess maybe a return to the wolves as characters. I wonder if there are some really interesting things that you've learned about the way that they interact.
Oh, yeah.
The way that they interact with the ecosystem that you want to share with this audience.
They are considered a keystone species, and what that means is they're important to their ecosystem, their environment, and when they are taken out, you will see negative effects in that environment. There's, I think, another keystone species, for example, is sea otters. They're very important to kelp forests. So I've been learning about that from the biologists. So that's been really interesting. I didn't feature any of that in the film, but I am still learning every time I go out because I ask a lot of questions. I think that's really interesting. But I also think there are cooperative societies, which you saw, how they raise their young together. They also take care of their elder wolves as well, which I think is just one of those endearing things that I did not know about them until I observed it.
And they're tough, we learn at the end, because
yeah.
that wolf made it alone, hurting, and then took down an elk with a broken jaw. I mean, these are really tough creatures.
And there's some Rick McIntyre has his latest book called Thinking Like a Wolf. 9/11M, that story is very detailed. I think Doug Smith touched on it, and you understand what happened. But in Rick McIntyre's book, it is so heartbreaking. The thing that Doug doesn't say is when those wolves attacked him, he could have run away to where his family was. And what Rick observed, and it's featured in his book in great detail, he stood his ground, and the biologists believe because he did not want that pack to hurt his family. So he stayed and fought those wolves, and he ultimately died, but at least they never attacked his family. And whether or not that's true, just based on observations, and also based on their observations, always watching 9/11, he was just that kind of alpha male that really looked after his family. That was heartbreaking. I had to put the book down, and I teared up, and I still think about that. I still think about him daily. 9/11M just makes me. Those are stories that I think people should know about wolves.
It is interesting how those individual wolves, but also how their family dynamics play out, and I guess one of the things that. For how cooperative they can be, but then how conflictual across
rivals.
packs.
They have rivals with other packs. They're very territorial. That's where dogs get it from. I've learned a lot about my own dog by watching wolves. Just, the rally where they jump on you. I'm like, that's what they're doing when we come home. It's like, you're home.
I thought that actually for the first time watching that rally. I thought,
that's what they do.
And they're probably real annoyed when you're kind of thinking about work and not committing to the rally. So we can all take that home with us, I guess, from this video. So we're probably getting close to taking audience questions, but are you ready to take audience questions? I happen to know that's her favorite part. She doesn't really want to
I never know what I'm going to
questions. These are going to be more fun. So we will turn to audience questions shortly. And so there'll be a microphone going around for audience questions. So think about your questions. Think about any last thing that you want to ask Angie about either the filmmaking or the wolves, because as you can tell, she's spent a lot of time with them, and we'll be able to do that.
Hi. I really love the film. Thank you. I was just curious, how do you get your funding?
I have a production company, so I fund it myself.
Okay. And also, I saw that some of your films get distributed. Are you planning on distributing this film?
This one's really interesting. My previous two are on Apple, and I think Roku. They've been on Hulu. That's different because I do have a distributor. But this one is falling into that education category, and because I feel like the subject is so important, trying to find ways. I'm screening it now through festivals and live audiences and universities and community theaters, things like that right now. But I hope to find a way and I think there's education arm. I think Google just came out with a studio where people can watch it for free, because I think it is an important subject. I don't see it going to like a streaming service where someone has to pay $1 or $2 to see it. So that's my hope. I haven't looked at those avenues yet, but that's what I'm looking at.
Hello. I was just wondering where the original wolves that were reintroduced, where they came from.
Canada. Yeah, they came. But there were, but as mentioned in the film, the entire North America was, had wolves and grizzly bears and everything. We humans eradicated them. So they did bring in wolves from Canada. Those are the wolves that are currently here now.
And I think you told me those are the wolf in California.
Oh
that
yeah,
crossed.
the new emerging. So wolves were not reintroduced in California; they came naturally, and they're descendants from the original Yellowstone wolves.
You said that the wolves take care of their elders. Do they also take care of the sick or the injured, and how do they take care of them?
Yes, that's a very good question. Yes, I didn't observe that too much, but there's been many observations that the biologists shared with me that they take care of the sick and injured. For example, I do have a story I can share. So 907, she did finally die in December of this year, Christmas Day. She was killed by a rival pack. So she was defending her territory. And from what I understand, she fought back, did not die right away. She lived for 3 more days. And her pack was seen bringing food to her. It appeared she couldn't go get water, so she must have been pretty terribly injured, but her pack was seen bringing her food. So, yeah, and then she ultimately passed away.
Which alpha male wolf is your favorite?
Oh, boy. Well, there's an alpha male named 21. He's not in the film, but I really like the story of Wolf 21.
What about him makes him your favorite?
I just like the fact that he was a very honorable leader, and one of the things I loved about him is he learned from his dad. If a rival pack, if they would get in a fight, he may win, but he never killed his opponent, and he learned that from his dad, Wolf 8.
Hi, Mom.
Hi.
I wanted to know what other film festivals you're enrolled in.
So Santa Cruz, Carmel, looking at, I haven't gotten an answer yet from Bend, Oregon, so moving up north, Seattle, and then there's just opportunities. At my screening at the San Luis Obispo Film Festival, we had people from the Black Hills Film Festival in South Dakota, where they said there used to be wolves, so they invited the film, or they had asked for the film to be submitted there. So yeah, so it's just slowly, with each screening, I'm getting more opportunities. And you can come.
2 questions for you. My first one is, do you see, or have you ever came across sort of collaborative behaviors between what would be rival packs or, I guess, more nuanced sort of interactions like between separate packs? And my second question is, this is a bit of a tougher, more broader question, but what advice would you have for someone beginning their career in film?
Let's see. So first, you were asking about if I've seen rival packs like interact. Was that the question?
Like, do you see not necessarily rival packs, but like what sort of interactions do you see between packs that isn't necessarily conflict? Like
I've seen. Okay, so we've seen. Well, this is during mating. Sometimes when there's mating season, you might have a pack, maybe 1 or 2 come in, and nothing, like maybe the pack that they're trying to get into doesn't attack them, it actually accepts them. So we've seen that. I observed that. But I've never seen when 2 rival packs like get into a fight. I have seen dispersing wolves join a pack, maybe a tiny bit of aggression in the beginning, but then they just kind of allow them to travel along with them. And then advice for beginning filmmaking, beginning a career. I would say it's such a nice discovery at this point. You have to find out what you really love. Are you talking about documentary? Yeah. I think whatever it is, you have to be so passionate about it, for sure, whatever subject that you choose. And then just start building relationships, networking, things like that. That would be my advice for beginning.
Hi, Angie. I loved your movie. It's Renee.
Oh,
Hi.
hi, Renee.
I have a comment and a question.
Okay.
I loved the part in the movie when the animals crossing the road with the traffic and just establishing that it's their world that we're in, right? You commented on that as well. My question is, and you also touched on this in the movie, but what is the typical lifespan of a wolf if it's not attacked by another predator?
So I think generally it's about 3-4 years is considered like generally like the range that they live in. So to live past that takes a lot of luck and intelligence and just being a good pack member type thing. I mean, for 907 to live to almost 12 years is completely unheard of. But the biologists believe because she was such a good leader and she had such a supportive group within the Junction Butte, they believe that's why she lived. And she was smart. She chose her denning and she chose where their territory in a place where there was water sources, great food, great abundance of food, bison, elk, and denning in a place that was very protected. So that was the other thing that the biologist had mentioned, that she was a smart wolf. But yeah, they generally don't live to be more than 3 or 4 years. I think that's the average.
All I really want to do is thank you for being willing to share this with us. And I think both the Carsey-Wolf Center and the Bren School, where I work, are really grateful. They were here and willing to engage in this also conversation with us. So thank you, Angie.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure. Thank you. Cheers to you too.